All set.
Okay, folks, we're ready. Apologize for a little technical delay here. All right, adequate notice of this October the 11th, 2018 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and the agenda of the meeting on the bulletin board in Municipal Building 1000, Route 10, Township of Hanover, by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County's Daily Record, Star Ledger, Hanover Eagle, and by filing same with the Township Clerk. May I have a roll call, please?
Committeeman Gallagher.
Here.
Committeeman Faramasta.
Here.
Committeeman Mahalko.
Here.
Committeeman Cahill.
Here.
And Mayor Francioli.
Here.
5 members in attendance, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance to our flag and remain standing for prayer. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all of the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, gentlemen, at this time, I'd like a motion to open the floor to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open. If you would like to address the Township Committee at this time, please do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record.
Karen, before you start, if this has to do with one of the ordinances,
Yes.
then it should come up at the time
At the time
we
of the
have the
ordinance.
ordinance.
Okay.
Not at this time, but I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The floor remains open. Any items not pertaining to ordinances that will be discussed? Seeing none. Hearing none. Motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Administrator.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We have one communication that we received from Timothy Culver in the construction department, building department. It says, "Dear Sean, with this letter I wish to inform you that I will be resigning from my position with the Township of Hanover as fire subcode official as of September 27th, 2018. I've been offered and accepted a full-time position in another town. I regret any inconvenience that this will cause and will do my best to minimize the disruption. Sincerely, Timothy G. Culver." As we normally do, may we have a motion?
Motion to accept.
We have a motion by the mayor, second by Mr. Gallagher. All in favor?
Aye.
So accepted for the record. Okay, as we continue, we have the approval of the Township Committee minutes of September 13th. May we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a series of ordinances that deal with land use and development legislation. We're going to take those ordinances as a consent agenda. So if anyone in chambers wishing to come to the podium and discuss ordinance numbers 21, 22, 23, 24, 21, 22, 23, 24. Then we're going to jump to 27, 28. Those ordinances are all land use groups. So we're going to take all the land use ordinances first. Once again, 21, 22, 23, 24, and then we go to 27 and 28. The last ordinance, 28, there's a resolution that the Township Committee needs to adopt before it can adopt the ordinance. So there's going to be a separate vote on 28. So at this time, anyone in chambers wishing to be heard concerning ordinances 21, 22, 23, 24 again, 27 and 28. If you're interested, please step to the podium and address the Township Committee. We'll also note for the record that all of these ordinances appeared in full in the September 19th issue of the Daily Record. They were all filed with the Morris County Planning Board as required by the municipal land use law. And we do have on file letters of recommendation from the planning board that each of those 6 ordinances be adopted by the Township Committee. So at this time, may we have, as a consent agenda, open the floor to the public for any comments on those 6 land use and development regulations.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ferramaska, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone in chambers wishing to be heard on any of those land use and development ordinances? Seeing none, hearing none, may we have a motion to close?
So moved.
We have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now on adoption, and again, we're going to omit 28 because that has to be a separate vote. So we're going to ask for a motion on the adoption of ordinance numbers 21, 22, 23, 24, 27 at this time. May we have a motion for adoption?
So moved.
We have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Ferramaska, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call for those 5 ordinances, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now, on 28, the reason that we need to take a second roll call separately is the fact that the provisions of that ordinance are not consistent totally with the master plan. I don't know if Mr. Branchow wants to make a comment on that before the Township Committee takes a vote on it.
Yes, ordinance 28 would, if adopted, permit drive-in restaurants under certain conditions. They would have to be part of a shopping center development or large retail development. They would have to have shared access with that development and shared signage with that development. Otherwise, they would not be permitted. Currently, they're not permitted, so that would be a change. The master plan, this is in 5 different zones that this change would take effect. In 4 of those zones, it would be consistent with the master plan, which doesn't recommend against that. The one zone that is the exception is the DS zone, where the master plan currently recommends against what's called fast food, not specifically drive-in, but fast food, whether drive-in or otherwise. So it's not technically the drive-in aspect that's prohibited, or recommended to be prohibited in the master plan, but almost all drive-in is fast food. So the planning board said that in that one zone of the 5, it is inconsistent. Also noted in the planning board's referral was, however, that the planning board has scheduled a hearing on the master plan amendment for October 30th, at which time that policy would be removed from the master plan as part of a comprehensive update of the land use plan. It's not just on that issue, but part of it would eliminate that recommendation to prohibit fast food in the DS zone, which would then make it consistent with this ordinance. So it's a temporary inconsistency, but technically at the time of adoption, the governing body must state its reasons for deviating from the master plan on the record.
Thank you, Blaze.
Nobody's eyes glassed over. I didn't think it, purely and simple, what this really means is if you have a shopping center zone, forget the design shopping center, you have a shopping center zone, and you have many stores in that zone, you have access to the zone. When you come in there, if a drive-through was to be located within that property for that kind of use, we will allow it. And that's what this truly addresses. But he has to do some corrections in our master plan in order to make it work.
We have to
Thank
do
you, Blaze.
the procedural matters.
Procedural matter.
Yes.
Yes, procedural matter.
So at this time, as I said before, we have to take this ordinance separately. May we have a motion to convene the public hearing on ordinance number 28?
So moved.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
At this time is based on the description that Mr. Branchow gave and also the mayor. Is there anyone wishing to be heard concerning ordinance number 28? Hearing none. Seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance number 28?
So moved.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll also note for the record that the ordinance, as the other 5 land use ordinances, appeared in full in the September 19th issue of the Daily Record. The ordinance was filed in accordance with the master plan, with the municipal land use law, with the Morris County Planning Board, and we do have the recommendation from the Planning Board on approval in that, although it is partially consistent with the master plan, the Township Committee must also state on the record the reasons why it is not consistent. So the first item that the Township Committee has to act on is a resolution of the Township Committee setting forth the reasons why it should adopt Land Use Ordinance number 28-2018, notwithstanding the Planning Board's opinion that Ordinance number 28-2018 is partially inconsistent with the Township's master plan. So may we have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion, second on roll call. Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska?
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
So approved. With that being said, and that resolution being approved by the governing body, may we now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 28-2018?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Ferramaska.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Francioli. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli. So adopted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move to the following ordinances, again, as a consent agenda, so that you'll look at ordinance numbers 26-2018, 29-2018, and 30-2018. So if there is anyone in chambers wishing to be heard on any of those three ordinances, they can step to the podium. We'll also note for the record that those ordinances appeared in full with the notice of introduction in the September 19th issue of the Daily Record. So may we have a motion so that we can convene the public hearing on those three ordinances?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. All in favor?
Aye.
So approved. So at this time, anyone wishing to be heard on either ordinance 25, 26, or 30, on any of those ordinances, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Karen Perry, 18 Sunset Drive in Whippany. I'm going to address my comments to ordinance 30.
Move your microphone right to,
Oh.
there you go.
You really can't hear me because I can project. 40 years of education, you can do that. On behalf of the Township Substance Awareness Council and with their endorsement, I come here tonight to communicate that we appreciate your effort to be proactive in adopting a resolution opposing the legalization of recreational marijuana in New Jersey and in pursuing an ordinance to prevent the manufacturing, testing, and retail sale of recreational marijuana in Hanover. The reasons for our support of your actions are far too numerous to convey in the time allotted. However, the existence of statistical, medical, and behavioral research supports your decision overwhelmingly. I'm going to list but a few. In brief, the 2016 World Health Organization report and a 2017 National Academy of Sciences study confirmed that marijuana is both physically and psychologically addictive and harmful. The THC of marijuana is not the THC of the 60s and 70s. It is far more tremendously stronger and dangerous to the development of the brain that does not reach maturation until age 24. Adolescent use of marijuana has demonstrated significant impact on cognitive development, including a lowering of IQ. Colorado youth usage, ages 12 to 17, now ranks 56% higher than the national average. New Jersey, believe it, is one of the lowest. Marijuana offenses in Colorado elementary and high schools have increased 34% in the last 4 years. Adolescent suicide victims in Colorado are increasingly found with marijuana in their systems. In Colorado now, 1 in 5 fatal accidents now involve marijuana. The legalization of 4 years there has not eliminated the black market either. It is a robust criminal Mexican cartel market. It doesn't charge the proposed New Jersey amount of $350 to $400 an ounce, with maybe a 15 to 25% sales tax proposed in New Jersey, a half of which may go to a town. But all of that is up for adoption at this time. Will it be 5%? Will it be 10%? Will it be 15%? In my opinion, none of those percents warrant any danger to our children and our community. In Colorado, that boosts of income. The taxes derived from marijuana sales make up only 0.95% of all tax revenue collected by the state. And then, if they deduct regulatory and enforcement costs from Colorado's 216 sales, it becomes 0.5% of the state's spending. At least 70% of Colorado's 272 municipalities have now seen the need to ban the sale of recreational marijuana. We certainly don't want Colorado to be our model here. It is not necessary. We applaud you for an informed decision based on the priority of health and safety of our children and community, and not the empty promise of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to be heard specifically on ordinance number 30? Okay, now on ordinances 25, 26, and 29. Are there any members of the public wishing to be heard on those three other ordinances? Once again, 25, 26, or 29? Seeing none, hearing none, then may we have a motion to close on the public hearing for ordinances 25, 26, 29, and 30. We have a motion, we have a second. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska? Mr. Mahalka?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
Now, on adoption, may we have a motion on the adoption of those four ordinances, 25, 26, 29, and 30?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gallagher.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cahill. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalka.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So adopted.
I would just like to make one comment, and believe me, like Karen, I have many, but I just want to thank Fred, our township attorney. I say he's like the architect. We all called him over and over and over again. He reviewed a lot of ordinances and resolutions. He knew what we wanted. He knew how strong we wanted to be. He knew the stand we wanted to take. And Fred, I think you did a phenomenal job. Joe shared this with 39 municipalities. I got a call from 3 asking me specifics. So it's, I think it was a very positive thing for us to take the lead on this. And you know, Fred and Joe, you guys were the architects of this, and I appreciate it on behalf of my family and all the children that I'm trying to work with and help, and I know you guys feel the same, so thank you, everybody. And thank you, Substance Awareness. That's it, Joe. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
It should be known that this Township Committee represents the sentiment of this entire community. Many times issues come before us that we may not agree with, but if we find that it is the feeling of the community at large to move ahead on something, we will do so. So we did not act on this ordinance, or we're not acting on this ordinance without input. We've had input not only from your Substance Awareness Committee, we've had input from our Board of Health, we've had input from our Public Safety Department. So we move forward on this ordinance in all confidence that it is the right thing for Hanover Township. So on that basis, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just add one thing? A lot of towns, as discussed, have tried to address this different ways, and one way was through zoning. But the concern is, you can't just from a zoning perspective say we're going to have a complete ban, because then someone's going to say that that's not a fair way to necessarily zone. But what this ordinance does is it says if there's marijuana will likely be licensed. There'll be a licensing process, and the Township Committee saying, well, we're not going to issue any licenses. It's very much akin to towns that say they're dry. when it comes to ABC matters. There's some dry towns, say down at the Jersey Shore, they don't issue licenses for alcohol, the sale of alcoholic beverages. So what we did was, working with Joe Giorgio on this at the direction of the Township Committee, is we said, if there's licenses, which we suspect there will be, because that's how this will be regulated, the township, in that case, is going to be a town that's not going to participate and issue licenses. It's not about the use, it's that it's not going to be authorized by way of sale or regulation, that the committee has made a decision that it's not interested in issuing those licenses, in effect, a dry type of community. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Great work, Fred.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue, we have 3 ordinances for introduction. They're docketed as ordinance 31, 32, and 33. We'll be taking these as a consent agenda. The 3 ordinances will be considered for public hearing and final passage at the Township Committee meeting on November 8th at 8 p.m. here in the main meeting room of the Municipal Building. And at that time, any member of the public will be given an opportunity to comment on any one of those 3 ordinances. The 3 ordinances and the notices of introduction in full will be published in the Daily Record in accordance with law. So now on the ordinances 31, 32, and 33 as a consent agenda, may we have a motion for introduction?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Gallagher. We have a second by Mr. Mahalko. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So introduced. Ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed the consent agenda for resolutions. Are there any questions from members of the governing body concerning resolutions A through H? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Ferramaska. On roll call, the resolutions as a consent agenda. Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. We move on to the payment of bills, $4,842,093.12. We want to spare Mr. Esposito from being arrested by Detective Hermans in the back, so may we have a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, second on roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
You're saved.
Joe, we almost forgot that. Remember that one night we almost forgot? We had to come back in
Almost forgot to pay the
here?
bills, poor self. Okay, raffle applications, 3 raffle applications also as a consent agenda. Are there any questions about 3 raffle applications?
Move they be approved.
We have a motion by Mr. Ferramaska.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mahalko. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mayor Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. And Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Committee, I thank you. That clears the agenda of the Administrator Township Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, once again, I'd like to open the floor, so motion to open.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open once again. If you'd like to address the Township Committee, you can do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record.
Howie Olson, 93 Griffith Drive. I just want to take a moment and just say thank you to the Substance Awareness Committee, headed up by Karen Perry and the other young ladies and our whole committee. I've been around for quite a while with the Substance Committee, and this is one of the best that I have been able to serve on. They're dedicated, and they're making things happen and making you also realizing what the drugs are doing in our own township. So I just wanted to just say thank you, and thank to Tommy too for all his input too. Thank you.
Thank you, Howie. Appreciate it. Floor remains open. Seeing none? Hearing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to
Second.
close? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, gentlemen. Committeeman Gallagher.
Thanks, Ron. I can't
begin without saying that we had an incredible event over here for Chief Steve Bulgar. Big clap out last week. Chief dedicated 60 years of his life, and I'll cut it very short because I'm sure Brian's going to jump in on this one. But I just want to say how much we all appreciate and how much I appreciate the Chief, his family, and all the years he's given us and what he's meant to a lot of us personally. Fantastic human being, and I always say he's selfless. He'll do anything for anybody, anytime, and what a gem. So thank you, Chief Steve Bulgar.
Well said.
Second, Friday nights at Menon Arena begin on January 4th, 10 consecutive Friday nights. They're getting bigger and better. Our activities are getting, we're already booking activities. And this year, we're going to branch out a little further to work with Committeeman Mahalco and the Rec Department. And Committeeman Mahalco requested that we set up a table at the Menon Arena, and we advertise all our spring activities at the Rec Department. We talk about the B Meadow Pool, and we try to get a good plug in for Hanover Township and everything we're doing for our kids here. So the partnership with the Rec is going to be new, it's going to be strong, and we have the same target, our youngsters. And we are specifically trying to hit those middle school kids and the high school, they don't call themselves kids, they're high school students. But it's all ages. Somebody even said that they would like their kids to come, but also they are much older and their friends are much older. All ages. Big discount. We'd love to have you. Howie Olson and I open the door for every single person that walks in that building. Thank you, Howie. School and park traffic safety. On a very serious note, few of us have been contacted about some issues up by Mount View Road School with some reckless driving around drop-off and pickup. Chief Roddy and Hanover Township PD are all over it. The chief made it very clear that if there is an issue, please call Hanover Township PD, 428-2512. We all take every one of these issues and concerns very seriously. Every one of our family members in Hanover Township is very, very valuable to us and to everyone else in Hanover Township, especially these little kids. And you know what? I've said it before. I don't really understand why somebody has to speed through a school zone. I probably will never understand that, but if somebody wants to call me and explain it to me, I would love to talk to you. You really got to calm down.
Still won't make it right.
It won't make it right, but somebody may have a reason because it's going on and on and on, and God forbid there's a tragedy. So I'm upset about that because I did tell a story about my little girl that almost got hit at the high school, and I'm still steaming over that one, but we've been doing this for years and we're going to make it better. You have my word. DPW, the fields for fall sports look beautiful. They're great. They're world class. We're very proud of our fields, all of our facilities. As usual, at this time of year, they're getting the leaf vacs out. I don't know when they're going to take them out. All the leaves are still up in the trees. Maybe we're just going to have spring fever pretty soon and open the B Meadow Pool back up. But the guys are out there almost 24/7 working. And like we discussed tonight, we do need a little bit of help with some of the signage all over town. We see it. We're getting complaints about it. We don't like it. So the DPW building are running around like lunatics trying to take down some of these political signs to help our town look a little bit better. But any help we can get in that field would be great, because I think it's October 22nd you can officially put them out. New Jersey Teen Concert Series is going to kick off this winter at Whippany Park High School, where we're going to give our artists and young musicians an opportunity to shine in front of their friends. We're all very excited about that. The Cultural Arts Department is also going to partner with us with the Substance Awareness Council and the New Jersey Coalition for Education and Positive Choices, and have music master classes. And this winter we're going to begin with drums and guitar. And the last thing I want to say is you're going to be getting a letter from Joe Giorgio about snow and sidewalk snow removal. We're going to discuss it in conference after this, but I want to begin by saying Hanover Township did a very, very good job last year compared to previous years with working with us to make our routes to schools and bus stops much safer. We do have an ordinance. When we have a bad storm, we relax it slightly, but we all have to get there as a team, get out there as a team and make sure we do our part. Not to mention the fire hydrants. So we'll have more information on that shortly, but we have been putting some time into that, and you have my word that we're going to make it better, but we all have to team up and make it a little safer for our families. Ron, that's it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Very, very comprehensive. Deputy Mayor Framasco.
Well, we'll begin with engineering, with a quick update on what I call the key roads. We've had a tough summer with 10 out of 14 weekends being wet. Well, we've had a lot of rainy days, and that has really negatively impacted the speed in which these roads are getting completed. The good news is Crossroad is done. Locust, all of what I would call the prep work is now done, which are the stormwater inlets, the curb work, the concrete work. They're ready to begin. Hopefully we get good weather and that can get paved. Shortly thereafter, we look forward to completing the work on Shamrock and Woodfield Place. Curb work is already underway in those areas, and hopefully we get some weather that will cooperate and we can get this work done soon. Trail projects. There is a trail project underway on North Jefferson Road, and the initial step to facilitate that trail, which is to complete what they call tree removal. So that's begun. That'll be a good means for our neighbors on North Jefferson and residential homes to access the municipal conference. EDAC. Given that the planning board has spent a significant amount of time laying the groundwork, so to speak, for the development of Route 10 through ordinances and reshaping signages and other developments, and you saw a lot of that tonight. There were 5 ordinances which the planning board worked on, led by our planner, Mr. Brancho. That infrastructure now is in place to move forward, and subsequently, the baton now is passed to our Economic Development Advisory Council. EDAC has formed 4 subcommittees, and those 4 subcommittees are charged with specific areas within the Route 10 corridor to facilitate development. We want to take some of the magic which we developed for the Hanover Avenue corridor and bring it now to Route 10. Everything's now in place, and now EDAC will begin its work in terms of marketing. EDAC additionally is working on an ongoing basis with what they call the website relaunch. So we're going to relaunch the Hanover Township website in Q1 19. You'll be learning more about that.
Civic Plus.
Civic Plus is the name of the organization that's working with the township. Your environmental team is very active. The green team is a subgroup to the environmental team. We welcome people who want to become involved with our green team. They are going to be hosting a free community paper shred day. It will be held at October 27th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon in the township parking lot. It's not going to be held at Employment Horizons this year. Don't go there. It's going to be held in our municipal parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12 noon on October 27th. Lastly, regarding website alerts, there's alerts on the website that I just want to bring to your attention. Number 1 is RAVE. If you haven't signed up for RAVE, please do so. You've seen what's happened in Florida over the past 3 days in terms of natural disasters, what it's done. In time of a disaster, if you're not signed up for RAVE, we might not be able to communicate with you. And we want to communicate with you to provide you with accurate, timely information. It's easy to do. Consult the website. Lastly, on the website, if you see potholes within a township, you can report them on the website. And importantly, streetlight outages, especially during this time of the year. At the end of this month, there's a tradition of trick-or-treat in New Jersey. Little ones are going to be out there in their Halloween costumes. We want to make sure every street lamp is on in Hanover Township. You can help us by notifying us in the event there is a street lamp that's out. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, John. Very, very good. Committeeman Cahill.
Thank you, Mayor. Ace, you're right. I just want to make a quick comment about Chief Bolkar's ceremony. It occurred on October 3rd. Yes, a huge success. The one thing that stood out and led me to want to share some other information is, as he said in several meetings, and he said that day when he was giving his farewell speech, was in all the years that he has been in charge of the crossing guards, no child has been hurt or fatally wounded either. And he was very, very proud of that. We're in a situation here in New Jersey, if you've been reading the papers, in the past month of September, 12 people have been killed. Pedestrians have been killed by cars. It's a record. We're basically at 115 people killed this year in New Jersey. Last year, That's one less than last year in 2017, which was the highest in 24 years. So we've got a real problem here. And the reason I bring this up is, to Ace's point, we all need to be careful and be responsible. There's been a lot of chatter on social media this past week. I've seen it myself. A lot of valid concerns, some invalid complaints, I would say, but I think this is all of our responsibilities. We can't put a police officer on every corner, on every street. Our guys go to where the problems are, but the problems tend to move around. So I'm going to lay it back on the rest of the community to be a little bit, think about it and be more responsible as well. I know it's not only community members. There are also people from outside on their way to work, outside of the school areas, rushing as well. But we're working very, very hard to address that, both as a committee, as a police department, and as a traffic safety, park and school safety committee as well. So just wanted to mention that as well. Moving on to the Hanover Township, or the Hanover Sewage Authority. Last month in September, they had their budget meeting where they reviewed a very, very detailed and comprehensive report, basically laid out everything as far as planning for salary and wages, benefits, administrative, vehicle expenses, plant equipment, numerous projects that are ongoing and will be started up over the course of the year. At the end of the day, as is so true with many of the organizations here in Hanover Township, they came out with a very, very aggressive budget. Essentially, at the end of the day, an average homeowner for next year will pay about $7.20 a year extra. So it works out to about 1.4% of a homeowner's annual bill. So I thought that was a pretty acceptable number in these times, so congratulations to that. Whippany Fire Department, Cedar Knolls Fire Department are beginning their budget processes now, so as information comes out, I'll certainly share that as well. Back to Hanover Police Department for a moment. There was a program sponsored but unfunded by the state of New Jersey. It's called Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over. This is a statewide, as I said, statewide crackdown. Began August 17th and ended on September 3rd. And basically what Hanover Township Police did was designated 2 officers to patrol, specifically looking for impaired drivers during that period of time, and I just wanted to share some results. There were 2 DWI arrests for alcohol, and what's interesting here, and to your point, Karen, talking about legalizing marijuana, legalizing any sort of drug, while there were 2 DWIs for alcohol consumption, there were 3 for people under the influence of drugs. So more people on the influence of drugs getting arrested than under alcohol. There was also 4 possession arrests, as well as 1 distribution arrest for controlled and dangerous substances. So in addition to that, so those were roughly the arrests. In addition to that, there were also 180 other violations or tickets given out during that time period as well. So as usual, Hanover Township Police, they generally, if you rank them compared to other towns, they usually do very, very well considering the size of our force and the size of our town. So congratulations. Lastly, very important, this is the last time I'm going to bring it up because it's happening on October 20th, is the Whippany Bearing Yard Luncheon, the gathering. I was at the Landmark Commission meeting last night. They've got a number of people already signed up, but there is still more room. Basically, it is October 20th. It begins at 11 o'clock at the hall at the Presbyterian Church on Route 10. There will be 6 speakers, members of the community who have deep roots and a history in this town. Lunch will be served. I believe it's $25 per person. You can go to the Hanover Township homepage to register for that. Following that, on the next day, on October 21st, there'll be a commemoration ceremony at the Whippany Bearing Yard, again celebrating the 300th anniversary of the Bearing Yard, where there will be a brief discussion and a dedication by a member of the Presbyterian Church, and then they'll be giving tours. So we had about 150 people at the tour. Actually, Ron, you were there, 150 people in the summer when it was scolding hot. So hopefully we'll get some folks that'll come back again in cooler weather. And lastly, on Monday at the Morristown Library, the Landmark Commission chairman will also be doing an hour presentation on the Whippany Bearing Yard and its history there as well. So a lot of activities during that 3-day, but again, I would encourage anybody who has any interest in basically the history of the town, focus on the Whippany Bearing Yard, but there are a lot of great stories around this town to try to attend that lunch, and I think it would be pretty interesting. That's my report.
Thank you, Martin. Very good, very well done. Whippany Bearing Yard is a true treasure, and Hanover Township worked very, very hard to get it on a national register of historic. It really did over time. In any event, that will be some weekend, 3 days of events on that, so that's really terrific. Committeeman Mahalko, how are we doing?
Very well, Mr. Franciulli, thank you. Our fall sports are in full swing. We are getting ready for our winter sports. Basketball and wrestling signups will be beginning on Monday. Actually, excuse me, they've begun already. So any of the youngsters want to come out, now's the time to start signing up. Tomorrow, we have Bayer Community Service Day, 9 a.m., if you guys are around, 9 until noon. Approximately 50 Bayer employees, the Open Space Committee, DPW, will be out planting mums and trees and beautifying our building here. Again, I want to thank Bayer for coming out. They're always a huge supporter. They always do so much for our town, which also reminds me of our charity softball, our classic softball that we had a couple weeks ago. We had a beautiful night. It was Bayer versus Wegmans, and Wegmans won. I was surprised. Bayer looked pretty tough in the warm-ups, but Wegmans got going.
Even gave them an extra inning and they couldn't pull it out.
Yeah. We raised over $13,000 for the food pantry, $5,000 apiece from each of the businesses, from Wegmans and Bayer. I also want to thank the Rotary and the Knights of Columbus for their huge support, as always. We got such great clubs in our town. They really came out and helped us make that a really, really fun event, and hopefully we'll make this an annual event, maybe even biannual. Should be. So, semi-annual, excuse me. Let's see, a couple other things going on. Ski Club registration is also opening up on the 15th, so for members who want to go out for skiing. Again, check out the website. There's always so many things that are going on. We do have a couple trips that are coming up. Paper Mill Playhouse, they have Holiday Inn is playing. There will be, the trip will include dinner and transportation. It's $85, so tickets are available. That is on December 6th, Thursday, December 6th. Again, check out the website. One more event that I want to mention, and we've been talking about Halloween coming up, is our Masquerade at Malapartis Park. That is for the youngsters. That is the 27th, October 27th from 2 to 4 o'clock. Gentlemen, come on out. I'm sure you'll be there. There'll be a lot of kids in costumes. It's always a great time. A lot of little booths from all of our, from the fire department, the first aid, Rotary, Knights. Everybody puts up a table and gives out candy. It's a really nice function. It's great to see the kids. That's it.
Well, that's great. The Masquerade is absolutely outrageous. It's grown and grown. I mean, you're in the thousands with the kids.
Well, definitely in the high hundreds.
I've seen the lines wrap around the park. The beauty of that is, and I'm so proud of the Recreation Department and what's being done there with this, is that the kids are in a secure, sheltered environment. Each one of the children goes past a series of little homes that are set up and are manned by volunteers who are giving them candy. So the old knocking on the door for trick-or-treating is all contained within Malapartis Park. The kids have a great afternoon, pumpkin painting, etc., the whole thing. It's a super event. It's really great. Very good. Mike had mentioned the softball classic. It was a very, very good success. I want to punctuate something, and it's not as though we're not aware of it, and Mr. Gallagher, Committeeman Gallagher, certainly brought it to my attention as well. The choice of the charity by the Bayer Corporation and Wegmans was the Interfaith Food Pantry, which, by the way, is a very worthy charity. They feed over 5,000 needy homes inside of Morris County. It was their selection and not necessarily the selection, I'm not saying not necessarily, but not the selection of the municipality to choose. We'll be discussing this a little further because, as Committeeman Mahalko said, we'd like to make this an annual event. But I think we're going to come up with a more structured manner in which to choose charities, hopefully focus more on internally on Hanover Township charities, etc., if that be the case, and let the competitors select the charities that they want to support. So that's one thing. But the amount of money given to the food pantry, along with some 3,000 pounds of food that evening, was absolutely fantastic. It worked out good. we had a very poor growing season at the garden. With the weather the way it was, the Hanover, Stony Brook Community Farm and Garden, the wet weather did a lot of damage to the plants, etc., and the gardeners, I think, did their level best to get some crop out of that this year, but maybe in the coming year they'll do it. They met as a unit to discuss this on October the 18th, that evening over at the rec center. A lot of good suggestions from the gardeners about what we should be doing in the coming year, but it's again a work in progress, and we are making some headway there too. It would be very derelict if I didn't mention all the wonderful things that are going on for the Whippetong Library. But as you were instructed, if you go to our website, www.hanovertownship.com, and open that up, and you want to open up to the library, or for that matter, recreation, or for that matter, any other areas that we have there, you'll see a list of events coming up for November. And this is a spreadsheet on November from your library. It's not just all about books, folks. There are so many wonderful programs involved in our library, and for our youngsters and for our oldsters. So please take advantage of it and take a look at it. I thank you, and if there are no further business from the members of the committee,
Ron, I'd like to jump on one thing that you said.
Sure.
With the Charity Classic, Ron and I spoke today and a little bit yesterday. Although it seems like everybody's doing well, we know that there's a lot of people and groups that are struggling. So we're going to put a lot of time into trying to create a vehicle that can raise a lot of money to help as many people as possible, and we're going to put a lot of time and thought into it, because long term, this could be that vehicle. And unfortunately, when somebody is in need, they don't broadcast it.
No.
So we have a lot of lines in a lot of waters, and we're going to use this to try to help as many people as we can without making a big deal about announcing that these people are in need, because a lot of times it's not their problem, but they don't want people to know that they're in need.
It's true.
So these are discussions that now we have time to plan the next one. We're all going to work together, and it's going to be good. And like Mike said, maybe 2 a year. But thanks, Ron.
Yeah,
Good deal.
no,
Thanks, Mike.
that's fine. The Classic was it was put together very, very quickly, and by the way, I can't thank Bayer Corporation enough. I can't thank Wegmans enough for participating, and certainly we can't thank them enough for wonderful donations that they made, for that Classic. There's one other thank you that thing's in order, because that's from 3M Corporation, Roxy, who staff put in time at the garden this past Saturday, and helping us spread more wood chips and helping us to clean up the garden. So that she certainly would be remiss if we didn't thank her and GE for all the help that they gave us in that area. So thanks, fellas. Once again, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, conference.
One day I'm going to call that phone number. I look at it every day. I have no idea who that is. John, one day I'm going to call that phone number. I look at it every meeting.
What time are they coming?
9 o'clock.
9 to noon, did you say?
9 to noon, yeah.
Coming down here, right?
Yeah, right
Hey, I'm
outside.
the smart.
I just looked for a photo op, that's all.
Okay, yeah, no, perfect.